I'm going to go over the 2018 FRQ release question, question number 2, called Warpair or Warpair list. In this case, they give you a class, and notice the Warpair class. They do not show you any implementation for the constructor or either one of the methods. They also do not even give you the private fields either. And notice once you go into your Replit, you want to be able to ignore this. This is just for testing. Warpair is here. You can click on the implementation, but in this case, since it's not provided, you should ignore it. You should go and close it down for each one. The implementation does not matter because it's not shown in here either. The Warpair constructor, the parameters is going to take two strings as a parameter, the first and the second string. And we assume that in this case they just initialize each one. They have two getter methods. Get first, basically it's just going to return the first string, and get second is going to return the second string. And either one of them both of them are non-static methods. So therefore you have to construct an object in order to be able to have access to those two methods. And you're going to have to implement your constructor in another method. Your constructor is here, Warpair list, that you have to implement in part A, and your num matches is going to be implemented in part B. Notice that the first thing that you do that they give you is your private field. It's an array. It's called all pairs. It's an array list which contains Warpair objects, which will be created through here. So it's called all pairs. It's an array list that contains Warpair objects. Most of the time they'll give you a precondition. So in this case, we know that the constructor is going to take a parameter that's going to be an array of strings called words, and the length is going to be greater or equal to 2, so we don't have to be worrying whether it has 0 or 1. It has to be 2 or greater. And your non-matches will be on part B. We'll talk about it in a second. We know that it has to return an integer, and it's a non-static method. So let's go to the constructor. Your constructor will be implemented here. Notice that there's a toString method here that you need to ignore, so you just want to close it up and kind of ignore it. It's not just part of your testing methods for my purposes. So you want to read through this carefully. And then once you're done, go and pause it, read through it more than once, and then we'll continue once you're ready. So let's go through example number 1. So notice that they construct first the string, they declare it. Words nums is going to be the array of strings 1, 2, and 3, and that's what they use to be able to construct a new object. So they declare the Warpair list, they name it example 1, they call you constructor, which is here, and the argument is word nums, which is 1, 2, 3, the array of strings. So therefore, we receive it as a parameter, and we name it words, or the field is called words. Now, one of the things that you have to remember is that they do have a private field that it's declared, but it hasn't been initialized yet. So therefore, we are going to initialize all pairs. Will be an array list, so be equals new array list. It contains objects, Warpair objects. And we don't need to, on an array list, you do not need to give it a size because array list can grow and get smaller as you add or delete items, or in this case, objects. So in this case, the way that the um, array list is going to contain word pairs, and notice that word pairs has two parameters, first and second. So therefore, in this case, it has the way that this is going to be constructed is 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3. So in this case, we have three objects in the array list. So the way it's going to be 1, 2, and then 1, 3. Then we will move on to the next one, 2, 3. On example number 2, they give you an array of strings called phrase. And once you call your constructor and you send the argument phrase, it's going to be caught over here by the words. And you're going to build, in this case, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 objects of word pair that will be added to the array list. And the way that's going to be done is going to be start with the first string in your array will be the, more, the, mirror. And then you move up one more, more, mirror. And then you move up, the mirror. So therefore, you're going to have a for loop within a for loop. So for loop in an embedded for loop. And from there, you're going to be able to add items into your OR pairs by creating objects. See if you can figure that out, and then I'll come back and help you if you need more help. So let's do a first for loop. Int I equal to 0. If I can spell it correctly. Until I is less than. We're going to go through all the words in the array of strings. So all the strings will be words that, and words is this array of strings, so will be length, size, so will be length. Do I need the parentheses? No. In this case, that is a field in I++. Now, once you go into your embedded for loop, this is the I item. On your J, you want to start with the one above it. So be with J is equal to I plus 1. Till J, and while J is less than, same thing, words length, we want to make sure that we go through all the words. And J++. So therefore, this is going, well, let's go through the next line. Then once we go through, we are going to be able to add, we're going to create objects of word pair and add them to the array list. And I'm just going to do both things at the same time. I'm going to be adding objects in the array list called all pairs. I'm going to add, and in here I'm going to create new objects of word pair. Now remember, the word pair is going to take two parameters, your first and your second. So therefore, let's leave an extra space here. We are going to start with the, which will be your 0, your I. So it'll be words I will be the first word, and words J will be your second word. That's going to take in. And I'm just leaving extra space in there, easier to read. And that's it. You don't need to return anything on your constructor. So in this case, it's going to go through 0. It's going to start at 0, which will be the. And then your J will be increased by 1, so it'll be more. then it'll be the will be for the I, and then the mirror. Once it goes out of this loop, then it's going to go to the next one, which will be more, and then the J will be the next one after that, which will be the. So the more mirror, and finally the mirror. So let's go through part 2, or part B. So kind of read through it a little careful, and then we'll start once you're ready. So in this case, you just want to be able to, once you construct your object, you want to be able to find out how many of them have the same, how many of those objects have the same word. For example, in this case, they have the red fox, the red. So once you create your objects, your word list or your word pair will be the red, the fox, the red. Then you move up, the fox, red fox, red the, red red. Then fox the, fox red. Then the red. And that's the last one here. And therefore you're going to count on these non-matches. You're going to count how many of them have the same word. And you're going to return the number. So in this case, it's going to return the integer 2 because there are two word pair objects that have the same word. So therefore, how are we going to achieve that? First, we need to be able to return a counter. So we're going to be able to initialize and declare a counter. And now I'm going to use a for each loop since it'll be a little easier to code. And remember, they can only use for each loop if you're going to go through the entire items in an array list or an array. In this case, we're going to go through the array list. So therefore, it'll be 4. And what we're going to do, we just will to compare to see if the first one and the second are the same. That's it. So in this case, we are going to go through the, whenever you use a for each loop, remember, first is what type of objects are in the array list. Is word pair objects. We're going to give an easy name, A, should be fine. And what is the name of the array list? It's all pairs. Now, how can we compare those items, those objects? So we want to be able to compare the words in the objects. And if you remember, the only way to be able to access those words is by using the getter methods, the get first and get second. So therefore, we are going to do an if statement. We're going to do the comparison, and if the first and the second word are the same, then we're just going to increase your counter plus plus by 1. Then we're going to return the counter. So see if you can be able to implement this section here. And then we'll continue once you're ready. So in this case, your objects are called A, and we're going to compare the first one. So therefore, we get first. Now, some of you guys are very tempted to do the following: A get second. Now, why cannot we do this? We cannot do this because get first is going to return a string, and strings cannot be compared with the double equal sign, because otherwise you're just going to be comparing memory locations. So therefore, you have to do the equals and place this in parentheses. And I need one more set. And that's it. Now let me see if I can run it and see the results. Now notice that in this case, your runner has, and hopefully I get no errors. Come on. Connecting to server. Let me refresh. It did save it, so let me run it. And there you go. So email me if you have any questions. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.